Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. It is great to have with me today Joe, the Kentucky Atheist. Hello, Joe.
Hey, how's it going?
And how are you doing this fine day?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a cold day here in Kentucky today, so I'm staying inside mostly. But I'm doing all right.
Okay, very good. Um, First and most important question of the day. Are you the Kentucky Atheist or are you the Kentucky Atheist?
So originally, that title was, I put it to kind of make a jab at Kentucky because there aren't any atheists here. So I was like the one and only Kentucky atheist.
Mhm.
But as you know, after I got going and met other atheists from Kentucky, like the show that I do on Sundays, a lot of times the live stream, it's the Kentucky Atheist because a lot of times we have multiple atheists from Kentucky talking. So
Mhm.
it kind of changed a little over time of what it means, I guess.
Okay. I kind of took it to be the way Poe is the big fat panda. He's not the only big fat panda, but he's the one that Kalon, or how do you say his name? Kylon had to worry about.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know. I guess sometimes it is that way. It's I don't know. It has to, that title has to always kind of be changing because I'm obviously not the only Kentucky atheist, and I may be the Kentucky atheist now as far as that goes because as far as like channels based in what I do, I guess I'm the only one of those. Um,
Okay.
so
I think if we are highly successful, then you may change your name to one of many Kentucky atheists.
I would welcome that.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be the goal.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a YouTube channel. Tell us about your channel. When did it start and what do you do?
So I started my channel about 9 months ago, and originally my idea was, just to look at some of the more crazy things televangelists say, and some of the more extreme cases of harm being caused in the name of religion, and make videos where I just kind of voice over and give my thoughts on what's going on there and point out how absurd, some of the actions of Kenneth Copeland and those bunch are. And but I didn't like all the editing I was having to do, and I really wanted to talk to other people. So
Mhm.
sometime into that, well, whenever I reached 500 subscribers, I started live streaming,
Mhm.
and from there, it's really been just live streaming every week. And then here recently, we've added some more shows, and things have grown and picked up steadily, and it's been a lot of fun though, doing the live streaming end of it.
Mark Caesar asks, has starting your channel introduced you to more atheists in Kentucky?
Yeah. In fact, just yesterday, I got a message from someone saying, "Glad to see an atheist from Kentucky that's actually doing this." And I get messages often saying, "Hey, I'm from Kentucky," and so I've met several atheists in Kentucky from starting the channel, which I'm really happy about.
Mhm. Mhm. Wanting to do some kind of a conference or forum on a very small scale here in Huntsville, Alabama, just to get some of the Alabama atheists to come out of the woodwork because I know they're there.
Yeah, yeah,
But most of them are hiding because they're afraid of what's gonna happen if they say that they're an atheist.
yeah. It's not a very popular view in some parts of the country to be an atheist. You can face actual problems because of it if you're public about it.
Mhm. And unfortunately, with the political climate that we have, the Christian nationalists have been greatly emboldened. And I've seen them coming on saying that they want to tax the atheists higher, that there should be a tax penalty for being an atheist. Um, Atheists should not be allowed to vote, and women should not be allowed to vote.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard some of those same things, and it's quite funny, and I mean, I wouldn't expect it to be anything other than projection as usual, but
Hmm.
you know, they're talking about atheists paying taxes, meanwhile, churches pay no taxes.
Nothing. Yeah, I know that's crazy.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
the
So, who do you have coming on your show this week?
uh, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, we've got Isa, who is a theist and a Muslim, but I think his perspective is going to be unique among most Muslims that the atheists engage with, because Issa takes part in a lot of other panels and stuff with atheists.
Hmm.
He's been popular on the Matters Now channel. He's been on there a lot talking with people of all different sorts, flat earthers and everything.
Mm.
But it's he should be a really good talk. And then Monday, me and Dave from Captive Desk are going to talk about Ken Ham and some of the things that Ken Ham has done in Kentucky, of course, and AIG, and where all that's going now that Ken's kind of stepping aside from the leadership role. So we're going to do
Hmm.
that Monday. But
Okay.
yeah, that's the two big things coming up.
When you do this, do you usually bring up some video that you talk about or articles that you read what's in them and talk about those?
Now, sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. A lot
Okay.
of times it's just open discussion about whatever issue. But if there's something we need to address or whatever, yeah, I do that. For example, we looked at the video the other day about the abortion law they're trying to pass in Kentucky that they've got a propaganda video out. So if there's something that's recent that we need to look at that everyone's not aware of, then yeah, I try to have that ready. But for a lot of things, it's just panel discussions.
Now, after Roe v. Wade was overturned, there were a number of states that passed
Trigger laws.
abortion bans, and there were a number of states that had um, wanted to make a constitutional amendment to ban abortion, and those were all shot down. Those were all voted down fairly overwhelmingly.
Yeah.
Was Kentucky one of those states?
Kentucky did have something shot down, but Kentucky was one of the states that had a trigger law that went into effect
Mm.
as soon as Roe v. Wade went. As soon as they dismissed Roe v. Wade. But
Hmm.
Kentucky is trying to use its Republican majority to just make it to legislate law anyway,
Hmm.
and they're I forget what the particulars of the bill were at this moment. I'd have to pull it up. I just don't want to get it wrong.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
they're trying to pass a law to ban abortions at a very, very early time. And some of the wording in the law, like at the moment of conception, life,
Begins.
life is there's life created at that moment. That's
Hmm.
But conception isn't really a medical term. It's because they don't actually know the moment of conception, so it leaves it vague. There's problems with it, but we'll see what happens.
Okay. Now, big political announcement for your state was that, gosh, and now Mitch McConnell has decided to retire,
Thank
which is probably a really good thing because he's had a couple of health scares recently.
you.
Um, do you know who's running to fill his seat?
I don't yet, actually.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything yet. While I do, I don't want to see anything bad happen to anyone, including Mitch McConnell. But
Hmm.
it is a good day for Kentucky to finally be out of that 4-decade long mess with him. And
I've had mixed feelings about him because, yeah, there's a lot of things that he's done that I've really disagreed with and really been very unhappy with. But he's also one of the few people that stood up to Trump.
yeah, Yeah, he did. He stands up to Trump and then he backs back down. And
Right.
I mean, I see why, and I get it, But he did try to stand up to Trump a couple times. It's just he has no spine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Mitch McConnell. I mean, he's been in Congress for so long and been in a leadership role for so long. I mean, he's accomplished things. It's not that the
Mm-hmm.
man isn't accomplished. He for sure is. And Kentuckians voted him in all those years, so they asked for more of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think things are a changing, and
Mm-hmm.
Mitch has got to go.
Do you think that there is a significant, and not necessarily atheist, but liberal voice in Kentucky that you could elect a Democrat to replace him?
I don't know.
You
Uh,
don't know? Okay.
our governor Andy Bashir is a Democrat,
Oh,
um,
okay.
and he just got reelected to that position. So there may be something there. There's not a lot of big Democratic voices. A lot of times the primary decides who's going to be in the next leadership role here, because it's going to be a Republican for sure.
That's
The
the way
fact,
it is here too.
yeah, the fact that
Except
we
in this.
elected Andy Bashir twice is actually quite amazing. But he's
Mhm,
had to play very, very moderate to do that.
mhm.
So I don't know.
Dean Kruger says, "I think Mitch was alive when the Constitution was drafted."
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, Mitch is getting up there.
Titan Uranus has changed his picture. And he says McConnell knew Trump's idiocy was ruining the Russian grift.
That may be true too.
Mhm, mhm. So what is the main focus of your channel? Is it exposing, Christian apologists, would you say?
I would say it's exposing harmful ideas and some of the harmful rhetoric that that religion has and does. But I also like to spend a lot of time focusing on the atheist community itself. One of our most successful live streams was talking about different atheist creators who have autism and deal with that on a daily basis, and how they do it in their lives and as a creator. So trying to normalize the atheist community would be the end goal, I guess. But all those other things are important to me too.
We have, I think it's a bot. Yeah. I put the bot in timeout, but I'm gonna go back and ban that bot.
Yeah, I don't have that problem. I have
I actually have not had an issue with it until now, and I can't grab it right now. There we go. And
but yeah, to just to speak more on the political thing though, I think that Kentucky has been behind a number of years of other states that have seen some of the horrible things that have been done with religion and politics together, the Christian nationalist movement and things. And I think that there's even if it's not enough to change things just yet, there's a growing voice speaking out here and in other states to kind of fix this problem.
mhm, mhm. Who would you say are the most dangerous of the Christian apologists?
Uh, I would say right now the biggest danger that I see is like AIG. Um, they're
Okay.
getting big into homeschooling, and
Yes.
their focus has always kind of been indoctrination of children. But
Mhm.
homeschooling is a very unregulated area, and they're kind of free to spread whatever laws they want, and they have been. But AIG is probably the biggest danger I see now, just because they're targeting children.
And what do you see as being dangerous in their ideology?
Their ideology, as far as it goes to tell lies about science, evolution, things of that sort, I think that's definitely harmful.
In what
And
way do you see that as being harmful? I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just
oh yeah,
asking your
yeah.
view.
No, I think that their whole reason for starting with the children is because we can get them at a young age and then expand. It's always about expanding the religion, and so misinforming kids to where that they may never find out the truth about these things stifles them in life, and is harmful to the future of all of us, because it's those younger generations that we depend on to step up and take care of things later.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, and I've seen this as a Kaja. I'm a court-appointed juvenile advocate, and there's a child that I'm an advocate for right now that's in a foster home where she is homeschooled, and I don't know what material she's getting, and it isn't, and I'm 99% sure it is not AIG material.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that is an issue for this particular child, but I do know that she has no friends. Her entire life is this foster family. The only time she ever even is with any people other than this family is when she goes to church for 1 hour a week.
Yeah.
And, I asked her about her plans for when she grows up. She wants to be a wife and mother. And I was suggesting that it's a good idea for even a wife and mother to have a college education. For one thing, an educated woman is a better wife and mother. A woman with a college education is better able to handle the problems that come up in life. But more importantly, if you are going to have your whole life dependent on a man for your economics, for your finances, and this I did say to her, but not this way. I put it on a child's level. But basically, at any moment, your husband can die or become permanently disabled. And I told her the story of my own daughter, who came to me at 16 and said she didn't want to go to college. She just wanted to be a wife and a mother. And I told her the same thing. You are welcome to be a wife and a mother. That is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you need a college education first. And today she has 4 children, and her husband is 100% disabled. But she did get the college education. She's a teacher, and she is teaching. And so, she was like, I said it, and that's exactly what happened. And I really hope this child does go to college, but I also think that if she does, she's in for a rude awakening when she suddenly discovers that the world is not the world that her parents and her church taught her.
Yeah. That's it is a rude awakening, that's for sure. You I don't sometimes I don't understand the you have educated people who are just as into some of that young earth creationist movement, and people like that, and while I know it's a whole grifting thing, like the Discovery Institute, and I feel like that those kind of things are really harmful too, because they're trying to use their authority to misrepresent science, and sometimes they do a thorough enough job of it that it takes a minute to step back and point out why all those things aren't true. But I feel like you can never have enough voices, though, saying that they aren't, so.
Yeah, I keep running into people who are young earthers, and they are so entrenched in what they believe that even when you point out that their beliefs cannot be correct, they just quit engaging at that point.
Yeah.
And the point that I usually go to is a refinement of the one that broke my faith, which is why is there no Babylonian pottery in China, India, South America, and Britain? Because if there was a global flood and the entire human race was wiped out, and then there was this Tower of Babel, and 100 years later, all human migration came from Babel, the Babylonians should have brought their art with them and their culture with them, and we should see Babylonian culture in every location where there was civilization 4,000 years ago. And that's not what we see.
No.
There's
Yeah.
just no evidence of that.
I love that one. That's one of the great points about some of the stories is for each of these stories too, that like when we talk about the Tower of Babel or the flood or any of those things, there's just any number of things that just don't match up with what we actually see.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
for a long time, these organizations and churches depended on people not knowing any better. You'll know what we teach you in church, and the school isn't going to go against that. So, we'll teach you what we want you to think the world is. And then as
Right.
the internet became prevalent and smartphones and people can fact check things in a moment's notice, hopefully we see these things starting to die out, at least for more rational ideas that don't conflict with the laws of physics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's still here for now. And where I live, it's all around here. Everybody's a young Earth creationist.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's
Oh, wow.
this area is probably 98% religious, and of that 98%, my guess would be 80 to 90% of them are young Earth creationists.
Wow. The area
So
where I live is also highly religious, but I don't think it's high on young Earth. And the reason being, I live in a very tech-oriented area. Huntsville, Alabama is home to Redstone Arsenal, and there are a lot of
Smarter Every
defense
Day is
con
down there.
What'd you say?
Smarter Every Day YouTube channel.
Uh,
He's from there.
oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Godless Engineer is from here.
Yeah.
But and that's the two primary occupations here are engineers and actually what was the other one? But anyway, there's a lot of defense contractors here. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of engineers here.
NASA
And
has a big
right.
operation there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, if someone could ban Paula Berlinski from the chat, that would be appreciated.
There's always one, isn't there?
It's a bot. It's not even a person. So let's see, where were we?
Huntsville, Alabama. There's
Oh,
mostly engineers down there, so they're not young Earth creationists either.
right. Because yeah, most of them are fairly well educated.
Yeah.
This city is growing like crazy. It just flabbergasts me that the apartments we see going up everywhere.
Yeah, we have like number one, Kentucky is not very high in rated in education in the United States. I want to say we're like third or fourth from the bottom, even as far as grade school and high school education. Anyway, we're pretty low, and not a lot of people here get college degrees, and the ones that do tend to be nurses or teachers. But we don't see that religion leaving most of those people. I mean, I've had teachers talk about Noah's Ark in class like it was a real thing. And
really?
Oh yeah. My biology class, I took biology in high school. Now you would think biology would have to like embrace evolution, right?
Right.
I mean, we even did experiments with fruit flies. But No, we were told evolution wasn't the only theory, and that it was just a theory, and that there was this other one, and it's intelligent design, of course. And so they kind of stuck to intelligent design in high school and stuff. It wasn't until college that I learned any better about evolution.
Now I sent my kids to Christian schools, and I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted by the bot. It's getting
I do that too.
profane, and it's getting personal.
Oh,
I'm not even going to put on screen what it said. And thank you, Titan, for taking care of that. Oh, it's not a bot; it's a person. Okay,
well,
but yeah, it is a profane, rude person who does not belong here. Anyway, my kids learned that evolution was false when they were in high school as well. But my son took AP Bio in his senior year or his junior year of high school. And in AP Bio, they must teach evolution. It's on the exam. They have
yeah,
no choice.
yeah,
And so my son did learn about evolution, and the teacher would have to say, okay, we don't believe in this, but this is what, this is what we're required to teach you. And that's actually a big part of why my son became an atheist, was when they when they were teaching this, my son started fact checking some of the things that they were teaching him, and this is all correct. There's nothing wrong here.
yeah, yeah. Whenever the first thing that I heard was a quote about chimpanzees sharing 98% of the DNA that humans have. And when
Mhm.
I heard that and understood what a small difference 2% is on in that, I mean, we can look quite different, but that's a small difference. And
Mhm.
then I had to go fact check that numerous places. In fact, I think I looked like at least 5 or 6 different places to fact check that, looking for it to be wrong. And
Mhm.
no, it wasn't wrong. And of course, there's some nuance to that 98% number there, but still, it's for what matters. We're 98% the same.
Mhm.
And that was a moment for me that made me want to go look at other things. And I didn't quite quit believing at that point, but I
Mhm.
did. All the young Earth creationist stuff fell apart at that point, because that also, genetics also disproved Adam and Eve. The narrative of the flood, where 8 people start the world over again. There were things in genetics there that did all that, but it was as related to evolution. And then I really got into evolution, learning a lot about that. And I think evolution itself actually disproves the Christian Bible anyway. Just the things that it says, that are required for it. But we don't have to go down that road.
So, have you always lived in Kentucky?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I lived in West Virginia, just right across, because where I live is where West Virginia, Ohio, and Kentucky all three meet. And I live right at that border. So I lived in West Virginia for a couple years, just right on the other side of the river, 5 minutes from here. And I lived up near DC for about a year after I got out of high school. But other than that, yes, I've lived here the whole time.
Okay. Um, so I take it you were raised in a Christian home.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so you were in high school when you started figuring out that it was a bunch of baloney?
In high school, I had questions. I was still, up until I was 18 years old, going to church 2 to 3 times a week. And I had asked some questions at church in like a youth group thing when I was 17, about how do you know that that's true, and why do we why do we think that these magic things happened? What, other than the Bible, what evidence do we have? And I was told, the normal answer of, if you want to ask questions, you can burn in hell. And that was actually the answer I've been given since I was 5 years old, though. So I kind of expected it. But yeah, I had questions then. I didn't really learn the things I needed to learn to say that it wasn't true until college, though.
Okay. And then at what point did you realize you were an atheist?
I was about 25, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I had went to college for maybe a year at that point, and there's just so many things that it actually came about because I went to church, went back. I hadn't been going to church for years. I went back to church, and some of the things they said I'd learned, were not true, absolutely not true.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me want to look into that further. And then I read the Bible for the first time, cover to cover. And as I'm reading through it, no, that's not true. No, that's not true. No reason to think this is true. And my mind was more geared to analyzing things from a scientific standpoint, or at least a
Mm-hmm.
skeptical standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I did that, then it was like, yeah, I don't believe in any of that. That's, and then I actually went and looked at some other religions, and not as in depth as I did Christianity, but just kind of looked at what the main ideas were and things, and found that I didn't think any of those were true either. Didn't see any reason to believe they were true.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, yeah, I said, I guess I'm an atheist. I kind of picked it agnostic for a while, and I was like, well, if I don't believe it, though, I don't believe it. So let's quit beating around the bush about it. I'm an atheist. And
Mm-hmm.
then whenever I discovered Christopher Hitchens, I became an anti-theist.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay. Did that cause problems with your family?
a little. It it's something that they don't want to talk about, really,
Mm-hmm.
and that's fine. I don't mind. But when they do want to talk about it, of course, given what I do, I'm always game for it. So,
Mm-hmm.
but they really avoid the issue. My mom every now and then calls me and goes on a 2 hour long thing about, well, how do you explain this then? And how do you know this? And it's always like fine tuning arguments, and watchmaker arguments and things like that. And I'm just like, these things have been addressed, Mom. Why don't you let me send you some links for some videos you can go watch, and it'll really explain it better than I can. But um, yeah, so I get that every now and then. My sister's actually an atheist too, though. So
Oh, does
yeah,
your mom know that your sister's an atheist, or does she keep it hidden?
yeah. My sister is she's a nurse practitioner, and
Mm-hmm.
she, I guess, through school, she's very smart too. So she just learned along the way better, and she's pretty open about it when it comes up. But um, my mom doesn't like to discuss it.
That is one thing that just flabbergasted me when I became an atheist. Is I still had some contact with some old friends from church in Fort Wayne. Now, I hadn't seen them in a few years, but there were some that I still had some contact with. And I was talking to one on the phone at one point, and I told her that I was now an atheist, and she told me how terrible that was and how she felt sorry for me. And I was really surprised that she immediately went to a question on evolution. And the reason I was so surprised at that is because this woman is a nurse. And I thought, you studied biology in college. How is it that you're asking me about biology? And her question was, well, obviously evolution couldn't happen because if a male and a female, you can't have sexual reproduction without having both of them evolve simultaneously, and we can't have a male and a female of the same species evolving simultaneously, so obviously evolution didn't happen. And I'm thinking, your entire profession is based on evolution, and you don't believe in evolution.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I see a lot of that too, and I'm like, didn't you have classes on this? And they're like, yeah, but evolution isn't true. And it's
Mhm,
like,
mhm,
well, there's, it always starts from the beginning too. You always have to say, okay, here's what a theory is, and this is what this means. And for, a theory is something that's been corroborated and proven to be, to at least take place in these conditions.
mhm.
So let's move past that and let's talk about what we actually see and what actually happens, versus what you believe, because you can believe whatever you want to believe, but it doesn't fit with what we actually see happening in the world around us. And
Have you ever referred any of John Perry's material to your mom? He's stated clearly.
no,
And the reason I specifically ask about John Perry is he's a science educator, and he's really good at explaining things like evolution at a level that a layperson can understand.
yeah, yeah,
And that's actually what I did when this nurse asked me about how sexual reproduction could have evolved. I had no clue. I didn't know much about evolution yet myself, and that's exactly where I went, was John Perry, uh, evolution of sexual reproduction, and when I watched the video, I thought, "Oh, this is really cool."
yeah. They Creationists seem to think that if you can't point to the single animal that carried that gene,
Mhm,
to get a population, like if you can't point to that single one, that you don't have anything. And it's like, that's not how anything works.
mhm.
It's when we say something evolved, we're talking about a population of species evolving, not an individual evolving. And then, we don't think that they think on terms of the Adam and Eve, that it must have started with two. And so I guess
Mhm.
it's just projecting that onto evolution. They think that you have to have those first two, and that's not how it really works. I mean, kinda, but not really.
There's a question I've been holding for a while because it didn't really go with the topic that we kind of moved away from this, but what is the ratio of literalists to long ago and far away?
uh, I mean, in my area, it's absurd. It's almost exclusively literalists. But that number of the far away crowd continues to grow. So at least they're moving in a direction.
Mhm, mhm. Young Earth creationism does seem to be dying,
Yeah.
and, the people at AIG, I don't know if they are intentionally skewing the figures, or I should say shading the truth, because they don't want to admit it, or if they truly don't realize that studies have shown that, okay, if you go and take a survey among the general population, you'll find that about 30% will say that they believe in young earth to a certain degree, that they'll say, oh yeah, there was a special creation of Adam and Eve, and there was a literal global flood. But if you then go and change it out so that there's more questions, and it asks, did people evolve over millions of years? Then most people check the block yes, and only about 10% say no.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's interesting that really only about 10%, that's still too high, but we're down to about 10%.
Yeah. Yeah. There's I mean, every church that I ever attended in my area anyway
Mhm.
taught that the Bible is the inerrant word of God.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
now, I do see some people that would, if you say, is evolution true? They would say, yeah, evolution is true. But then if you rephrase that as, do you think that we evolved from a common ancestor that was an ape-like creature? The answer would be
Mhm.
no.
Right,
Um,
exactly.
so
Mhm.
so there's some, yeah, you really got to dig deep with anytime someone says creationist to find out exactly what they're talking about, because there's different flavors of it for sure.
Clement Green says, "Oh, Joe is an atheist?"
Yes, yes.
Mark Caesar asks, is it your goal to educate your mother, or is it just easier not to bring things up?
When she brings it up, I let her bring it up. And when she does bring it up, I always try to educate her on at least one thing. So that if we can get this one idea in there and she understands and accepts it, which she's good about that. She's not being, closed-minded. Yeah, thanks, Az. She, I try to teach her one thing, and if she can learn that one thing, then I feel like we're doing something good, and then I'll move on to something that builds on that and a little more difficult the next time. And then once we get to a point, I'm like, now, hey, you've told me you understand, how space and time are the same thing. Now, do you understand why they say the universe is billions of years old? So we build on it and try to get there a step at a time. My mom, though, she's a great lady. She's just she was just misinformed and never learned better, So I'm happy to help teach her.
I will say that it was my son that eventually brought me out of theism.
Yeah,
And yeah, it started when my son started doing exactly what you're doing. Because my son started by telling me, Mom, that the ark could not have happened because, for one thing, all of the animals would have died from the methane gas from all of the poop. And that got me doing some internet searches. And when I saw that he was right, he then showed me a video of an ARC protest from, I think it was 2019. And Aaron Ra was there. And the first thing that caught my attention was the banner, Incest and Genocide Park. And that infuriated me. And I said, look, the story of Noah is not about okay, I guess it really is about incest, but it's not about okay, I guess it is about genocide. And that realigned my thinking because I never looked at it that way.
yeah,
And then Aaron Ra got up and was talking to some guy, and he said, we know that the flood didn't happen. Not just that it couldn't happen, but that it didn't happen. And we know this from geology, biology, history. And he went on to a few other things. But it was the word history that broke the dam because I knew enough about Chinese history, Neolithic Chinese history, to know that no class I have ever taken said, okay, then all of the Chinese people were wiped out. And there was 100 years where there were no people here. And then slowly the civilization began to rebuild. That isn't the way history went.
yeah. It's almost like they didn't notice that giant flood that killed them all. Yeah,
Exactly. Hmm. And I
yeah,
saw something new the other day that just floored me. Was someone was talking about ancient structures, and they said that they gave the age of the Sphinx, and I didn't realize the Sphinx was as old as it is.
yeah.
It predates the alleged flood.
Yeah, the Sphinx is thought to be much older than the pyramids. Yeah,
I
and
didn't realize that. I thought it was the other way around.
the water weathering on it. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
And the AIG is frequently asked, why is there no water damage on the pyramids? And they say, well, simple, the pyramids were built after. Although when you look, even though the Great Pyramids of Giza were built after, there are some existing pyramids in Egypt that predate the alleged flood.
the step pyramid. Yeah,
Mhm, mhm. But I didn't realize that the Sphinx does too.
yeah,
And the Sphinx also has no water damage.
yeah. There's a cavern that underneath the Sphinx that they just in recent years discovered. They could get in, and only let one guy go in it at the time. The Hawani guy, the Egyptologist, but
Mhm.
they it's said that there could be a lot to tell us a lot more about the history of the Sphinx and that area. So that's still advancing. That's on the forefront of science still. Thanks, Todd and Uranus.
And yeah, I forgot to announce this at the beginning, but the there is a link in the description to the Kentucky Atheist channel. And if you are not already subscribed, please subscribe. And that would be great.
Yeah, thank you. We try to have fun with it, you know.
Mhm.
If nothing else, when I started making the creationist videos, I was maybe taking things a bit more seriously at first, but then
Mhm.
once I started talking to people and things of that sort, we try to have a lot of fun and talk about stuff in a way that that is easy to handle. Because I tell people all the time, like, you know, Matt Dillahunty and Aaron Raw and people who are experts in their fields that talk about these things. They're great for facts, but there's also, you know, these things are absurd just on the face of them. They're absurd, and so I like to kind of discuss things in a laid back way. We do get into science sometimes, but try to just talk about things as they are. You know, make a difference between facts and fiction.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Azo, whenever you come to talk to me, you're coming to talk to Azo too. He's my sidekick and co-host, and we've been doing all kinds of stuff together for a while now. And Azo's a lot of fun. I appreciate him. He helps me a lot.
Clement Green says, "What's wrong about the Ark in Kentucky is that there's no barnacles on it."
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the many things that's wrong with it. But yeah, we unfortunately got that. That's about 45 minutes from me. Um,
Oh,
and
really? You're that close?
yeah. Well, when I say that people here are young Earth creationists, and you
Mhm.
think about that, and then you
Mhm.
think about where that is, there's a reason that the Young Earth Museum and the Ark Encounter are where they are. They didn't put them there by accident.
And why are they in the location that they are?
Because of the number of young Earth creationists in this area.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It was a welcoming area that you know, bought his story and thought that it would be a good thing to wrangle kids into an ark and teach them that people rode around on dinosaurs. So don't tell his girl we're engaged. You wish. You wish. You ain't even bought me dinner yet.
Uh,
Azo is the for sure the comedic relief at times.
okay. Brethren Lee wants to argue that there is no such thing as evolution. Brethren Lee needs to get an education. I don't know what it is with the trolls today. I've never had so many trolls in my chat as I've had today.
What can I say? I bring the trolls out.
It must be the face.
I get a few. I get a lot of these extreme, like to the point that I have to question whether they're mentally ill and I should just, you know, not engage. Or, you know, I get a lot of extreme characters that show up in my shows sometimes, and because I'll open it up and let everybody come in, and every now and then we get a crazy in there that starts going on about stuff, and we have to
Now
stop.
we have a viewer from Spain and we have another viewer from Denmark, and so that's why this question came up. And I don't remember when it came up, but there was a question about, is Kentucky in the Bible Belt and is it in the South?
Kentucky is considered to be in both those
Oh, here
things.
it is.
Um, while northern Kentucky was kind of more with the North in the Civil War and things, Kentucky's still considered a southern state. We're at the northern portion of the southern states.
Yeah. Indiana is really uh, I don't want to say misnomer, that's not quite the right word, but an anomaly, because it is a northern state And yet there's a lot of Southern influence in Indiana. Evansville, which is just across the border from Kentucky, is very like Kentucky, and Indiana was a hotbed for the KKK.
Oh yeah, still is.
Mhm.
Still is for what's left of them.
Mhm.
That's another thing that thankfully is dying off. Um, Different form of extremism has replaced it, but
Drizella wants to know if anyone has seen a god. I haven't seen any gods. Have you seen any gods?
no, I looked, I didn't see any.
Yeah. If there's anyone in the chat that has seen a god, they could tell us about it. That would
Send
make
us
for
a
a good
picture.
show if someone came on and told us about having actually seen a god. Closest
Yeah.
I've come is S.J. Thomason, who likes to talk about Our Lady of Lourdes, who I was looking for how many people claim to have seen a vision of Mary there. But it started with 3 kids, and it
Yeah,
kinda grew from there.
yeah, yeah. The what's that called? The human mind likes to see patterns in things.
Mhm. Mhm.
I forget the word for it. I'm usually on top of that because I talk about it often. But yeah, I mean, people who claim to see things all the time, and what I get usually is they don't see God, they experience God in some way. And I always like the ones though where they claim to have seen God or hear God actually speaking to them with their
Mhm.
ears. Um, I always find those kind of interesting, but near death experiences is another one that falls in that category.
Mhm. Oh, Reverb Twang says, "I've seen Sasquatch and collected 12 tracks."
Pareidolia, that's the word. Yeah, pareidolia.
Um, so where are you hoping to go with your channel?
Well, what I hope to do is to keep on growing into a place where atheist community members feel like it's a safe place to talk about whatever issues they want to discuss. And for the longest time, I wanted to argue with theists and prove people wrong about stupid things they said. And I still do that. I had a debate the other day against Kyle Adams
Mhm.
on Mark Reed's channel. But I, my focus has been more on the atheist community itself and talking about the
Mhm.
issues um, that the community faces, both personally and at large, like the autism thing. There are people who are atheist creators deal with autism and how they do it, and I think talking about these underlying issues helps to normalize the community more. And again, that would
Mhm.
be my ultimate goal to see that label of atheist not be necessary.
I think that's one of the reason why deconverting was easy for me is because I came from a family that was half atheist, and I never fell for any of the things that they said in church about atheists when they would start saying, "Oh, atheists are immoral people and they just go around doing bad things." And I was like, I know a lot of atheists, and no, they're not like that.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I thought that atheist was synonymous with devil worshiping. That's
Yeah,
what
a
I
lot
was
of people think that.
taught.
Mhm.
I was told, like in the woods and stuff around town, that devil worshippers gathered. Atheists, they would call them atheists. Devil worshippers, same thing, and like killed dogs and cats and did weird stuff, like, which none of that ever happened at all. But yeah.
Now, if somebody would like to come on your channel to, talk with you, how should they go about doing that?
All right. So the link in the description to my channel will take you there. Every Sunday, I do a live stream at 2 p.m. Eastern, and we have guests sometimes. Sometimes we don't, but I almost always try to open those up for people to come in and say anything they want to say, talk about anything. Um, my channel members, I actually do a live stream just for them where
Hmm.
we all just sit together and talk about whatever we want to talk about. There's no subject involved. So if you go over to my channel and say anything about wanting to talk, somebody will get a hold of you to come talk. Anybody who wants to come on can. I'm always open to hear people's stories and things like that. So you can also find me, the Kentucky Atheist everywhere. So you can message me on Facebook or Twitter, or even the Kentucky Atheist at Gmail. You can get me there. So anywhere you type in that name, you should be able to find me if you want to talk. And I'm always open to talking to people. So I welcome it.
Oh, Michael's going to be, oops, wrong one. Michael's going to be on May 5th. That's my birthday.
Yeah. Michael's going to come on and talk to us. He also has some experience in the dealing with Christians in the Bible Belt, and so that should be a good talk. We've got people lined up until May to come talk 2 to 3 times a week. So we've got lots of guests, but I always want more. And if I get enough, we'll just add another day and start filling up Tuesdays too. So
who are you hoping to get on that you haven't yet?
Well, I just messaged Darren Raw. I'm hoping he accepts my invite to come and talk about phylogeny and maybe give away a couple books in the process. The channel will. We try to do little giveaways and stuff. We also have, and this is something that's growing and starting to do really well. On Wednesday nights, we do a trivia night, and Azo actually hosts that. I sometimes drop in and troll the guys and stuff, but we don't talk about religion or anything. It's just straight up trivia, and we give away $25 gift cards. So, yeah, that's a fun thing we do to kind of break the tension and get away from the serious discussion all the time.
Okay. That's about all that that we have time for today. But if there's one more thing that we didn't cover that you'd like to cover, or any closing thoughts that you'd like to leave people with, please go ahead with that now.
The thing that I would like to leave people with is that you have a voice to speak out against these things, and you don't have to do it. But if you feel like you want to do it, you should. I feel like a lot of people think that they need to be some kind of expert in something to talk about harm when they see it, but they don't. So I encourage anybody that feels like they need to have their voice heard in this area or something to do it. If I can make a YouTube channel and figure out how this works, you can too. I'm positive of it. And that would be the only thing that I would want to leave people with.
Yeah, it's much easier to do, as Godless Engineer says, stand up and use your voice than you might think.
Yeah.
It's hard to grow a channel, but it is easy to get started. And I find that for me, the secret is reaching up and reaching down.
Yeah.
Reaching up to someone that's got a bigger channel than you, get them on your show, let their numbers pull up your numbers, and then reach down to someone who's just getting started and pull them up.
Yeah. I try to team up with as many of the smaller channels as I can to do content and just to have them on and talk. And I'm always plugging my friends' channels, trying to help them, because we're all in the same type of fight here against misinformation and lies. And so I always like to see others do well. Yeah. And I thank you for reaching down and having me on, to expose me to a few new people, because again, I love to meet everybody I can. So yeah, come see me.
Well, thank you very much for coming. It has been a pleasure having you on. Next week, there will be no stream. I will be in Philadelphia at the Atheist Conference, or at the Atheist Convention. And so I won't have a stream. I actually already have finished next week's video, so it will simply get released on Friday as usual. And I'm about 15% done with the following week's video, because I'm not going to get back until Thursday. And so I'm going to have to get that done even before I leave, so that I've got something to release the following week. But the following week, my guest will be Thomas Bear. And that should be a great chat, getting to know Thomas Bear. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, those of you in the chat, for your comments and questions. Thank you, Joe. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Of course. Thank you.
Live your life.